Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures, Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, Know Before You Go, Secluded Botswana, presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Alex Mazunga. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you all so much for being here today. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Rob. Before I start, let me just introduce myself again. Like Rob said, I'm Alex Mazunga, born and raised in Botswana, which is in Southern Africa. So I was born and raised in Northern Botswana, which is close to Zambia, Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. So I was born and raised in my family where my parents were more like nomadic and doing hunting and gathering. So my father taught me a lot about tracking the animals, medical use of plants, how to survive in the bush. And that's what made me to do what I'm doing today. And I've been a guide since 1999, and I've worked in different camps in Botswana as a guide, as a camp manager, and I've been a natural habitat expedition leader since 2016. So I'm just going to take you through Secluded Botswana, which is one of the NatHab safari or trips which we offer in southern Botswana. So just to start with, normally what's happened is most of our trips, Secluded Botswana photos, safari trips, they either start, most of them start in Zambia or some end in Zambia. So basically what happened is when the guests land in Livingstone, in Zambia, where we start, myself, the experience leader, or some of my colleagues I work with, will meet the guest at the airport. So when we meet, we normally meet the guest after they've been through customs and immigration. So very lucky, since last year, 2022, Zambia introduced no visa to most of the country in the world, which includes the United States. Botswana also no visa to enter Botswana. So the only time, which because sometimes guests get confused if you need visa to enter Zambia or to enter Botswana. So the only time we normally need you to get a visa is when you go to Zimbabwe, like in the dry season. Like you see in that picture here, this was taken in a very wet season around now to about August. So this time of the year, we only do the falls in Zambian side. So there's no need of you purchasing a visa if you land in Livingstone. But come the dry season, which is normally from September, October, November, or sometime earlier than that, because it basically depends on the rain that determine how much water comes into the falls. So if we see the falls on the Zimbabwean side, that's the time when we recommend all our guests when they land in Livingstone to purchase what we call CASA visa, which is a double entry visa. It's cost about $50, so that will allow you to go into Zambia, and then you go to Zimbabwe to view the falls, and then you'll be able to re-enter Zambia or leave Zimbabwe without any payment. Or sometime if you have an extension, if you do an extension to Zimbabwe, also you'll be allowed to purchase a visa on your arrival, which is a $30 visa. So the other thing which we do when we are in Tokalia, that's where we stay in Zambia. We do the falls, of course, which is one of the highlights of our trips, Secluded Botswana. In Zambia, we do the Victoria Falls, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. We do that normally in the morning, our second day in the morning. Our first day when we arrive, we do the sunset cruise, which is amazing on the mighty Zambezi. And then we do the falls. And then another exciting thing which we do on our second day after the falls, we do the white rhino. So in the whole country of Zambia, this is the only place you'll be able to see the white rhino. We've got about 10 white rhinos to speak. at Musiwa Tunya National Park. That's where Tokalia is based, where we stay. And we've got 10 white rhino there. And those are the only white rhino which we have in the entire country of Zambia. And in this trip, Secluded Botswana, this is the only chance we have to see the rhino. So we're very lucky. We have the rangers who work for Zambian government, wildlife department and national parks. They stay with this rhino 24/7 to guard them. As we all know that rhino are one of our endangered species in the world. So they stay with them 24/7. And Musiwa Tunya National Park is inside the national park, so no off-roads which are allowed inside any national park in Africa. So what we do is, you can see this was from my previous safari, which I ended yesterday. So we're very lucky we saw the two, a mother and a calf. So because we are not allowed to go off-road, when we get there, the rangers lead us and we walk. You won't believe how close you get to this animal. Because the rangers stay with them 24/7, so they're more like used to people. You can see they were not even bothered by us be around them, but still they are wild animals, so we still keep a reasonable distance. So we're able to watch them, and we saw her and the calf walking, going into the bushes, and then we left. One of another exciting thing which we do also when we are in Zambia, we do what we call a cultural village tour. And this is the only place in this itinerary where you can be able to interact with the local people. Because once we cross over to boats, which I'll share with you, we don't have any opportunity to visit a village. So basically what happened when we get to the village, we do have what we call a village guide. So she or he lead us and she takes us around the village. As you can see there, I was trying to educate those kids, and the people are amazing. They're all very happy to what they have, and they're happy to be where they are. And we walk around, and the village guide explain to us how they live, how many people in each village, how they survive. And Natural Habitat and WWF, they do an amazing job because we support them as well. So we're doing quite a lot of things to support the people in that community. So we do that, and then that's pretty much our two nights in Zambia. And then this is one of my favorites. When we cross over to Botswana, for those who have been to Botswana and Zambia before, for those who have did safari before with Natural Habitat, you remember we used to use the ferry to cross over from Zambia to Botswana. That's no longer the case anymore since 2 years ago. So the government of Botswana and Zambia were able to build this beautiful bridge, which was built in for almost 4 years, and it was open to the public 2 years ago. And my favorite thing about this bridge is we call this border 1-point border post. So we normally don't waste time with that border. So when we come over from Zambia, it's about an hour drive from Tokalia to the border. So some people do sometimes wonder if you have to pay a departure tax. We don't pay any because we drive from Tokalia to this beautiful border. We drive all the way from Zambia, cross the border into Botswana, and right in the middle of this bridge, if you look a little bit to the right there, you can see two rivers, one coming from the right, one coming from the left. So this is the only place in the world where 4 countries meet at one point, which is Zambia, Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. So we cross right there, this beautiful bridge. We get onto Botswana side in one building. There will be immigration and custom from Zambia. We check out of Zambia in the same building, the immigration and custom for Botswana, and then we check into Botswana. So about COVID, because some people still get a bit worried if there's any COVID needed. We used to, last year, they were asking for us to show them our vaccination card. It's no longer the case, but we still recommend that when you come over, please bring your vaccination card with, for in case if they may ask. But my previous safari, which ended yesterday, they didn't ask for the COVID vaccination card. So all we need to do, all they need is just have a look at our passport to see which country we've been to, and then we go through the immigration, and then from there we drive about 30 minutes to 25 minutes. We get to a lodge called Chobe Safari Lodge in a minibus, and then we leave all our luggage in that minibus, and we have head into a boat cruise, which is the beginning of fun, wildlife-wise. So Chobe National Park, we do 3 hours or more boat ride, and we have lunch in the boat. And this particular park here, Chobe National Park, have got the highest elephant population in the world. So we look at about 50,000 elephants in this park only. Botswana, for those who doesn't know, we have the 3rd population of African elephant in the whole world. So we look at about 130,000 elephants. So in this area here for the 3 hours boat cruise, we do see a lot of elephants. Sometimes my guests see elephant for the first time in Tokalia. Maybe they're in the bushes. I just tell them, don't worry, by the end of the trip, you'll be telling me, Alex, that's another elephant and another elephant. And they are quite amazing. I mean, I don't get bored watching them because they're always doing something. As you can see, this one particular picture here, I always call them the boys club. So these were all bulls. They were walking straight towards us. So our boat was right under where my name is there. That's where we're packed waiting for them to come and drink. And then after they went back into the woodland. So we do see varieties of animals in this boat cruise. We see hippos, we see some aquatic antelope like red lychee, waterbuck, a lot of crocodiles, and we also see a lot of birds because we do have a lot of people who are very keen bearers. Botswana only, we got more than 606 species of birds. So we're looking at a lot of colorful birds, and big and small, a lot of different species. So after the 3 hours boat cruise, we drive like almost 10 minutes from Kasane. That's the town where I'm from, where I grew up. So from there, we drive 10 minutes to the airport, Kasane International Airport, and then we fly in one of these planes, which is in the picture. I always call them the Bush 747. It's a Cessna 208, can take a maximum of 12 people, excluding the pilots, and depends on how many people are going same direction. It might be only us, not top guests, or maybe with other people going to the same direction. And then from Kasane Airport to our first stop, which is Linyanti Tented Camp, it's about 40 to 45 minutes, depends on wind direction. And Botswana is one of the best countries to visit when coming to safari, because about 40% of the entire country have been saved aside for wildlife. So for the 45 minutes, we fly from Kasane to Linyanti, you see nothing but trees, beautiful landscape. And as soon as you get maybe 10, 15 minutes before you land, the pilots always alert us. They'll be starting to go a little bit lower, and then you start to see some animals, elephants and other stuff. So this particular picture here was taken right in front of Linyanti Tented Camp. So if you see that elephant calf at the very end on the right, the main area is just maybe 20 to 30 meters from it. And then if you look more to the left, there's that big dead tree there. Room number 4 is right on the left of it. So they were right in camp. So we're having lunch with elephants. So they were right in front of us, which was amazing. And this particular picture, I took it during the dry season, which was around October. And that's when a lot of elephants come down to the Linyanti River, which for the water and the green grass. And I always recommend for the guests, because all of us expedition leaders, we're quite very good photographers. So we always advise you on which lens to use, when. Like this particular picture, you need a wide angle lens so that you can get everything in the picture. And we do help you on the light side of things. If you're not quite familiar on how to use your camera, we all of us here in Botswana, we're very good with camera. So we do assist you on which setting to go to and which lens to use. So also because we got limitation of how much luggage to bring, like for the normal NATAP trip, we recommend 44 pounds because as you have seen that Bush 747, if you bring a lot of weight, there might be some issues there. Except for the photo trips, we have the maximum of 61 pounds. So we do have some limitation of how much you can bring. And in most cases, anyway, you don't have to bring a lot of stuff clothes-wise because all the camps which I'll go through, we do laundry, same-day service. So all we recommend is you pack weather. Like now, it's our winter, so it's getting mornings and evening after sunset, it's getting chilly. So we recommend you pack some nice clothing for winter. But we also do have like blankets, ponchos, what I call bush babies, which are the hot water bottles, which we offer to the guest in the morning drive and the evening drive if need be. So clothing wise, mainly we recommend not to bring a lot of stuff because we do same-day service. Lioness was looking right at us, and some of my guests were a bit nervous because she was very relaxed. This particular female here, I know her very well. We've seen her when she was like 5 days old, when the eyes were still closed. We were at the den, so she wasn't bothered by us at all. So we're more like maybe 20, 15 feet away from us. She was just sitting there. The rest of the pride was behind her, which you'll see some pictures to come of the whole pride. Took pictures. You can talk, you can laugh, as long as you're not doing loud. And then we watched her for a while, and then we left, and she was still there having fun. This is some of the species we see in all the safari in Botswana. This is the spotted hyena. For those who have watched The Lion King, you might have seen the hyenas in The Lion King, but look at that picture. They look more cute than they are on The Lion King. So yeah, this is the spotted hyena. We got about 4 types of hyena, which either myself, if I'll be your expedition leader, or my colleague, whoever will be your expedition leader when you come to Botswana, they will educate you more about this wildlife. But otherwise, we've got 4 species of hyenas in Africa, and this is one of them, spotted hyena. They are nocturnal, but we're very lucky. If you can see right at the bottom of front leg of that female next to on the right, left side, she was eating on something there. So if they have a kill, you have a chance to see them during the day. Otherwise, they hide during the day. Lioness, there's a natural habitat. This was in Linyanti Tethered Cape, end of last year, sorry. That's one of my colleagues there, and I was where the lioness was facing, and we were there watching her, and not bothered at all. And the one thing which you will see also when you come to Botswana is how we sell our tourism, because we are a conservation country, natural habitat and WWF, same thing. We are a conservation company, so we trying to conserve what we have so that our grandchildren can come and enjoy this. So at a particular sighting like this in Botswana, we do high cost, low volume tourism. So there's every site you will see any predators, we only allow 3 vehicles at a time. So we do communicate on the radio with each other, and then first come, first save. So you won't see more than 3 vehicles if you see any predator or anything on your game drive while you are in Botswana. Elephant, like I've mentioned earlier, we got 3rd population of African elephant in Africa. This particular picture, I took it in the Linyanti as well. There's a famous channel called Savuti Channel. So they were crossing from one side to another. Beautiful lights, the morning light, the golden light was just amazing. And they were walking straight towards us. So myself and my colleague, we have been expedition leader for a long time. We know how to position you where is the best light, and we also can read the animal behavior, so we can anticipate what the animal is going to do next, and will position you at the best position so that you don't have to restart your car, which might spook the animal. So already we're packed where that cow in front was heading on the other side, and they walked right by us without any concern. Male lion, amazing. I've put this picture just to show you the difference of that and this. So this picture was taken during the rainy season, and this one was taken in the dry season. You can see on the different, very dry, October, November before the rain. It can be very dry, depends on the rain from the previous year. And September, October can be also pretty hot, up to 90, 100 Fahrenheit, sometimes depends on where you are. But we adjust time-wise for activity. So if it's hot, we leave as early as possible, where some of my guests sometimes tell me, that's too early, and I tell them the earlier the better, like October, September, November. We do our wake up like 5 o'clock, 5:30, have breakfast, 6 you leave. Believe me, by 8:39 it's hot already. And if you go late, you're not going to be able to have this male lion in the beautiful light walking around while it's still nice and cool. Once it gets hot, they just find a shade and lay down there and wait for later when it's cooler. Now in winter, we wake up a bit late because it's dark by 5:30. So we do a little late wake up, and it's cooler longer, so you can still find predators moving around, even around 8, 9 o'clock, hunting if they're hungry, or just moving, checking the territory. So we adjust times. We're very flexible when coming to times. Same with the meals, activities, we're very flexible. We do what suits the guest. But we as expedition leader, we also know, because we're here on the ground, we know what is best to do so that you capture the best moment, because some of the guests, maybe it might be your lifetime experience, first time to Africa, maybe you won't make it back, you want to experience, because believe me, there's a lot to see around the world. And natural habitats, we do a lot of trips around the world. So that's why we try for you to have the best while we're here in Africa with us. So this picture here, I just put it on to show you how close the animal can be to your tent. This particular picture also, it shows you the accommodation you're going to be staying in when you travel in these camps, because some guests or your family, when you tell them we're going to be staying in a tent, so even yourself, if you have never been, you don't have an idea on what kind of tent it is. So that's how most of your rooms or tents or looks like. So this particular one, that's Jakana Camp, which is our second camp in Secluded Botswana itinerary in Botswana. So this tent too, which is amazing view, right past where my name is there, is water from there all the way. I'll show you a few pictures of the delta, which is breathtaking. So that elephant bull there, we took the picture when we were in the Mukoro with my guest, and we went out on the Mukoro. This is what we call Mukoro, the dung out canoe. And I looked back, I saw that bull walking towards that room too. So we took that picture while we were in the dung out canoe, and it was feeding on those papyrus or wild dead palm. And then we were very lucky. This was in a different trip. Some also in Jakana, we came across this breeding heads of elephant, and they were very relaxed, just feeding on the edge of the delta. Guests took some nice picture, and we were there, watched them. They can see us, they can hear us. You keep distance. They were not bothered by us. We had some amazing picture, and then we moved on. This one to show you how the delta looks like. This is how the delta looks like right now as we speak. I just came from Jakana 6 days ago. This is exactly how it looks like right now. Amazing, water everywhere. And we do this Mukoro. And also we have put this itinerary, Jakana, in the middle of the itinerary, because this way also you can chill and relax, because we do more water activity. Depends on the water level. we also do a motorboat activity at Jacana. But right now the water is not high enough because we're still waiting for more water to push in from the highland of Angola, which myself, if I'll be your guide or your spiritual leader, will give you the Delta talk just to give you a brief of how the Okavango Delta was formed and how everything works. But right now, the water is here and the peak of the flood will be next month, July, and then August, the water start to recede. So beautiful area in the Okavango Delta. And then we do see these are cheetah, which you'll see. I do have pictures of leopard to come, but you can see that you will see the difference. This is a cheetah. You can see got like tear marks, black tear marks because they're down now. They hunt during the day, and they've got black solid spot, which will be different to the leopard, which you'll see shortly, which have got rosé. So this was the mother and the cub, but there were actually three. So another cub was more to the right, sitting on that termite mound. Beautiful morning light. They were just sitting there, sunning themselves. We took pictures, left them. They were still sleeping there, doing their thing. Also, to show you, Botswana is a very flat country. So I took this picture also in the Okavango Delta. We look at about 1,000 meters above sea level, which is roughly around 3,000 feet above sea level. So it's a very flat country, Botswana. And the Okavango Delta is the largest inlet delta in the world. So it's even bigger than some of the country in the world. We look at about 22,000 square kilometers. And we got varieties of animal there. Because that antelope on behind the elephant there on the left, those are the red leche, very difficult to pronounce, Lechwe, one of our aquatic antelope. We see a lot of hundreds and hundreds of those at Jacana in the Delta. So browsers, grazers, happily see them together. More eyes the better, because if one see a predator, they'll do what you call danger call or alarm call, alert each other, and then they'll all get alert if there's any lion nearby. One of my favorite transfer from Linyanti tented camp to Jacana, this is what you see right now, from now until around August. So I always recommend for my guests, I always tell them, if you'll be able to keep your eyes open, because sometimes, believe me, there's a lot of activity through the 11 days we on safari, because we do almost 2 activities every day, which I'll cover as we go. So from Linyanti, there'll be game drive 2 in a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And then when we move over to Jacana, some guests feel a little bit exhausted, but I always tell them, please, when we enter the Delta, which is about 20 minutes flight from Linyanti, you'll be starting to see the water. Try and look around the window. It's an amazing scenery. So the Okavango Delta, we got about 150,000 islands, which you can see in this picture. Some of them are very big. Some of them can be up to 10 kilometers long. And all these islands, you can see the green island, those are wild date palm. They all have a termites mound in the middle. So the termites make an amazing to the ecosystem of the Delta. They form all this beautiful island. And the white you see in the middle of the island, those are salt deposits, which are deposited by the water, because the water comes all the way from the highland of Angola, which is about from the highland of Angola to Maun, where we finish our trip. Secluded Botswana is about 1,300 kilometers. And the water push all the way from there to Maun. It takes about 6 months. The local people who live in the Delta, including myself, we can drink this water direct because it gets filtered by the sand of the Kalahari, but we don't recommend our guests to drink it because your system is not used to it. So we do offer purified water to the guest, and we always NATAP give you some water bottles to bring with. But if you forget it back at home, not the end of the day, we do give you some. We do have some spare, which we keep at Tokalia where we start our trip. We always ask the guests when we meet them if they have them. If not, we give them some to take the whole trip. So the Okavango Delta also, we got a lot of different species. Lions is one of them. This picture I took on my last trip last year in December when I was leading one of the photo trip, another photo trip. There were two brothers, we call them coalition, two brothers. There were two of them, as you can see right behind them there, that's the road which we use for game drive. So we find them sitting there. It was amazing. It was in the morning. One of them started roaring right there by us. And the sound, it was breathtaking, because a lot of guests, when we travel around the camps, they do hear them roaring maybe at night. But this particular time, this guy did roar right while we were there. And I always recommend to my guests that, because I can tell what's the next the animal is going to do. So I always tell them, if the animal is going to do anything which needs recording, please do record. And I always advise everybody to keep quiet so that you can capture that nice African sound, like a male lion roaring right next to you is something which we don't hear or see every day. So if you have that opportunity, it's always nice to get it without any voices of us, the Homo sapiens. Leopard, one of the species we do see at Linyanti tented camp. We see them at Jacana. We also see them at Gomoti, which is our last camp in this itinerary. And leopard are solitary animal, very elusive, but in most of the trips we do get like to see one or two. This one, I took it on my last trip also in December last year. Was a young male. We tracked him for about an hour in the morning, and we very lucky. Almost as I was about to give up, like let's try for something else, there he was. My guest couldn't believe it, because I saw him like miles away, because I've been guiding, like I've mentioned, since 1999. And then I've been an expedition leader since 2016. So I've been managing and guiding all different camps in Botswana. So I know the area very well. I can even drive with my eyes closed. A lot of my guests recommend, please don't. You might drive into the Delta and you get stuck. So otherwise, I know how most of this area looks like. So if there's anything unusual, I can tell from a distance. And then I do stop and double check or confirm using the binoculars. So which most all of the guests, we recommend they bring binoculars. But if you forget it, or if you don't have any, we always carry some, so which we can share with the guest. So we drove right next to him. He was just sitting there, so you can see he was staring at us, like he was posing, like he knew we were gonna make him famous. So he was just there looking at us and without being bothered. Southern giraffe. I don't know, for those who have been to Kenya, this particular one is only found here in Southern Africa, which is in Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Mozambique. So it's called Southern Africa, but if you go to East Africa, that's where you have Maasai giraffe reticulated, which is a bit different to this. So giraffes, we see them in all the three camps, actually four, even at Tokalia in Moswatunya National Park, they have them. This was like a nice breeding head, female with the youngsters. They were just cruising around, feeding, not bothered by us, doing their daily thing. African or Cape buffalo, most of my guests call them water buffalo. Nope, we don't have water buffalo in Africa. So they are all called African or Cape buffalo. We found them in a beautiful light, if you can see. That's beautiful pink ears. You can see one of them there on the right, on the side, on the left, it's got a bird there. That's an oxpecker, yellow-billed oxpecker. Like I've mentioned, we've got 606 different species of birds in Botswana. So if you are keen bearer, you know you'll be at the right place. If you like big game, you are on the right place. If you like exclusive, you are in the right place. So we do market our tourism as private concession. All the area we visit will be only us. No self-drive, no hunting. So the animals will be there doing that daily natural thing they do every day with no disturbance. We do shoot with our cameras, not with a rifle. One of my favorite camp, I always tell my guests, Gomoti Tented Camp is more rustic in this itinerary, but amazing camp when coming to wildlife. So this pride here, there were like 18 lions together, females, cubs of different ages, because lions do synchronized breeding. So the females basically do breed pretty much at the same time, because the cubs, so that the cubs can compete same age. Otherwise, if the others are young, the others are big, the little ones won't make it because they compete for food. So nice pride there. The father wasn't there. He was out there checking the territory to make sure there's no intruder, because otherwise the intruder will be a threat to the cubs. One of the best places also for Gomoti, we do see different species of animals together. Gomoti Camp is about an hour drive east of Gomoti River. So one of the drive, we drive to the Gomoti River, and sometime we're very lucky to see something like this. Elephant, Cape buffalo together, sometimes zebra, particularly giraffes in one area, grazing, drinking, browsing. So it's one of the best area also to see zebra. This I took like 3 days ago at Gomoti. We came across this waterhole. We waited there. There were one bull elephant, was wallowing in the mud, putting sunblock lotion because it was a bit warm. And then all of a sudden, this kinship group of zebra came, and we stayed there, watched them drink. Blacksmith lapwing or plover, those black and white birds were just there watching these zebras. We watched them, they had a drink, and then they moved on to the shade because it was starting to warm up in the morning drive. We also have sometime very lucky to see lion cubs. We saw these ones also like 4 days ago at Gomoti. Pride with almost sub-adults with 4 lioness, with 4 cubs sitting there by the Temas Mound. The rest of the pride was behind the mound on the right, not bothered by us. And we watched them. We followed them a little bit, trying to hunt, but they were not successful. Then when it started warming up, we left them. They were sleeping. Sometimes we're very lucky in the morning or afternoon to get to something like this. African wild dogs, or some people call them African painted wolf. We found them trying to get that wild beast, but the wild beast was very smart. One of the books we recommend to our NATAP traveler is a book called Whatever You Do, Don't Run, which was written by Peter Alsen. So here in the bush, if you run, you are a prey. So this wild beast was very smart not to run. Otherwise, if he started running, he was gonna be normal. So he stood there, he stood his ground, and the dog tried. They realized, oh, this guy too big for us. So they left and they found something which was easier for them to get. So if he made a mistake to run, of course, he was gonna get eaten by those African wild dogs. Lion cub, like I mentioned, sometime we're very lucky. This was last year. You can see it was during the dry season. This was in October last year. No grass, where this lion cub was sleeping, watching us. She walked actually very close to us, left the pride behind where she was coming from, and looked at us and moved a little closer, and she was quite curious, and you were like, okay, they're not doing anything. And then he moved back to the pride. One of the things which we do, depends on what time of the year, is what we call walking safari. That's me there. So we do walking safari, which we do it normally in the mornings. So most of the activities, the game drive, they last for about 3 hours, 4 hours. Sometimes it can be a little longer, depends on what Mother Nature have provided for us out there. That's why I always recommend it. We recommend to our guests, when you go on any activity, like you see my guests, we're carrying those backpacks. We call them the day pack. So if you got any medication which you take during the day, we recommend you take it with, for in case if the activity takes a little longer, because you never know what you're gonna see out there, and then you can take your medication while you're out there. Every activities we carry tea or coffee, cookies. If it's in the morning, you stop somewhere, stretch legs, have tea, coffee, or soft drink. Same thing with the afternoon. We carry soft drink, alcohol of your choice with some snack. We stop out there, stretch legs, have something, watch the sun go down, and then proceed. So this particular activity, we either walk from camp for about an hour or so and then walk back, or sometime it might be a camp. You might not have a suitable place to walk from camp, because at the end of the day, safety comes first. So there are some places which each camp have selected that the safe place to do walking, because we don't normally walk in an open area where there's no big trees or mount to hide if something happens. We don't walk in the thick places. We don't walk where there's tall grasses. That's why I said earlier that we do walking depends on the time of the year, because during the rainy season from November to around April, March, when it's rainy, the grass can be pretty high. The bush can be very thick. So sometimes in some camps, we are unable to walk because of safety. But otherwise, we do walk for an hour or 2 hours, depend on the guests. And this is one of my favorite also, because this, when we get to nature and experience few small things which we can't experience while we're out on game drive, boat, or those downward canoes. So this way I explain to my guests how to survive in the bush, all those tracks, medical use of plants, and all the sense of smell. And sometimes if it's during the rainy season where we've got the fruit trees, which I know is edible, if the guests are they're keen, they can test, and we do that walk and then back to camp. So we also recommend, like you can see the lady on the left, she was carrying water, because we walk, so you need to keep dehydrated. So I also do carry some extra water in my backpack there, for in case if you run out. So just before we get to the end, this is just because we do have another itinerary which is called Delta and Beyond, where you also start in Zambia and Chobe, and then that particular itinerary we don't do Linyanti tented camp, because we have found that some camps or some area, they're not quite very active. It depends on what time of the year. So this particular itinerary, we don't do Linyanti tented camp. So after Tokalia, we go to Gomoti, which is the last camp on Secluded, Botswana. From Gomoti, we go to Jakana, which is the second camp on Secluded, Botswana. And then from Jakana, we go to the Kalahari, which is a semi-desert in Botswana. It's the Kalahari National Park is the second largest protected area in the world after Selous National Park, which is in Tanzania. This is the place where you'll be able to see some different species of animal and some birds which you can't see in the Chobe, where we do the boat cruise in Botswana on our first start, which you can't see in the Linyanti, which you can't see in Gomoti, which you can't see at Jakana. And also you'll be able to see some desert animal, like the one which is in the picture, which are called the Gemsbok or oryx. The two little guys that looks like impala, those are not impala, those are the baby or oryx calf. So when they're born, they look almost same color as the impala or other antelopes. So we do that. It's basically our last camp on that itinerary, and you get to experience the desert animal, and we also get to experience these guys, the meerkats, which are very fascinating creature. So we do see the meerkat there, and they'll be like, as you can see, my guests there. So you sit down, you relax, because they're normally worried of eagles. So they'll come and find any area which is a bit high, and then they go up to see from a distance. That's what was happening right there. And this is the place also you get a chance to experience a walk with what you call the Bushmen or the Sen. So we walk with them, and these guys, even today, they're still the only place in the world you can see them is in Botswana, in the Central Kalahari Game Reserve, and the other part of Namibia, and the other part of South Africa. So they still live that nomadic and hunting and gathering. So this is the only place you can see them. And they will also have a chance to walk with them in one of the activities, either the morning or the afternoon. And they show us how they hunt, because they're still allowed to hunt, what the medication they take if they have a headache or they have any illness, and how they find water. They show us all these things while we're down there in the Kalahari, which is the amazing experience in the Kalahari, which is one of the itinerary we do. So also, like clothing wise, this way it can be extremely hot. Depends if the rain, because we normally do this around, we call it green season, which is from November or December, January, February, March. That's when we do this trip. So if it's not rain, it can be a little bit hot. Same thing, we adjust for timing of activities. And then we do the later or early, depends on the weather. And also if it's raining, in all the 3 camps, we do have ponchos. Some guests bring raincoats with, but we do prepare ponchos in every activity for the guests to use for in case it's raining. And we also give them those blankets in winter if it's freezing cold. Otherwise, yeah, this is the Delta and beyond, and also the photo trips, which runs around that time, also end at this particular area, the Kalahari or Makadi salt pan. It's the only part of Botswana where you can see the meerkats at the moment, which is an amazing experience. There we go. Just before I sign out, just to mention a few things about the food. I remember when I started in this tourism industry in 1999, back here in Africa or Botswana, we're having a very tough time to cater for some dietaries because most of the chefs or most of the food we didn't have in the country. As I've mentioned, Botswana, or for those who have been here before, they've heard it from the experienced leader who they were with. So Botswana is a desert country. About 80% of the entire country is covered by the sand of the Kalahari, which is about 300 meters deep, sand of the Kalahari. So the soil is not very good for crops or vegetables. So, but as we speak, in short, as we speak, we do cater for any dietaries. You name them, kosher, gluten-free, every dietary you can think of, we do cater in all our camps in Botswana, including Tokalia and Zambia. So most of the guests or all of the guests do pass the information to NATAB to travel. So when they come here, already we know which dietary they have. So we make sure that everything is there and are ready for the guest. So we prepare and as per the guest also, because there's a lot of wastage of food around the world. So in all our camps, we do prepare looking at the number of guests. Tokalia is the only one which is a bit different. We do a la carte there. So guests order for lunch, they order for dinner. But when we cross over to Botswana, all our 3 camps in Botswana, we do buffet style. So the chef will prepare, they'll announce the menu what they prepared, and then you go and dish the amount you want. And they prepare as per the amount of or the number of guests. So nothing gets to waste. So if anything's left, we take it to the back for the staff and the managers. So nothing gets to waste food-wise. So otherwise, the activities, just to wrap up, your expedition leader will always tell you what to wear, depends on what activity you're doing that day. So like the walking safari, so if you do a walking safari, we always recommend to the guests to put on closed shoes, long pants, because you're gonna be walking in the African bush, savanna. We call it mixed woodland or mixed savanna. And then the delta is called seasonal floodplain, but that I'll leave to your expedition leader when you come over. They'll explain more in details what that means when they do the presentation of the Okavango Delta. So otherwise, the other activity like the falls, we recommend if you have any waterproof shoes or flip-flops, wear those. Shorts, we also offer you raincoats when you get to the falls. Like right now, I was there 12 days ago, you get wet. Camera-wise, in the falls, we recommend the guests that don't bring any camera, big camera. You can use your phone, or you can use your camera with a wide-angle lens. Big lens, we only need them for the afternoon when you go to the rhino, to go and see the rhino when you're in Tokalia. For the falls and the village, we normally use the phones just to wrap up on the camera side of things. For the photo trip is different. Like I've said, we recommend 61 pounds. So the best lens to bring for both either photo trip or normal trip is your wide angle lens, maybe 70 to 300 to 200, and also your 100 to 400, because you can zoom in and zoom out. And the wide angle lens, like we've seen some of those pictures, like big hair of elephant, big hair of buffalo, or that beautiful landscape, you need a wide angle lens to capture it. Otherwise, that's pretty much from me. And thank you very much for listening and watching.
All right, Alex. Before we start in with the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that you can submit some questions via the question field in your control panel. All right, let's get to them real quick. So can you clarify the visa issue again if we're going to Zambia and Botswana?
You mean about visa or?
Yes, about the visa.
COVID. Okay, basically what happened is Botswana, since we've never, as the United States or American, you don't need any visa to enter Botswana. Zambia, they used to ask for you to enter, when you enter Zambia, for the visa, which you were able to purchase at Livingston Airport. But the current president who took over Zambia 2 years ago now, he declared no visa to enter Zambia for Americans. So when you come to Zambia and Botswana, no visa needed. When you leave Zambia to Botswana, no departure tax to worry of, because we drive. When you leave Botswana on the last day, when you fly from Botswana to Johannesburg to connect back home or on your extension, you don't have to worry about departure tax because it's already included in the package you have paid for. And then also to touch, because we're already on the subject, money-wise, everything is prepaid already, so you don't have to worry about carrying a lot of cash. You are only allowed to pay if you do like a Tokalia, the offer massage, African massage, I call it. That's what that time you'll be asked to pay. Or when we cross over to Botswana, we do have some amazing baskets which are made by the local people or the staff who work in all those camps. If you buy one of those baskets, then you have to pay. Unfortunately, at Linyanti Tented Camp and Gomoti, they don't accept credit cards. It's only cash, either US dollar or pound or euro or rand, South African rand. You can pay using any currency. And then in Jacana, they do accept you can use your credit card to pay. Otherwise, the only time which you have to buy visa, like I've said earlier, is if you cross over if we do the falls in Zimbabwe. And then that's the time when you land in Livingston Airport, you buy what you call a CASA visa, which is a $50 visa, which will allow us to go to Zimbabwe and leave Zimbabwe without paying anything. That CASA visa will cover everything. Or my previous safari, which I finished yesterday, 5 of my guests flew straight from DC to Cape Town. They were there for a night, and then they flew from Cape Town and landed in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. But they were on transit. They were not staying in Zimbabwe, but they were asked to pay for $30 visa just to land and leave Zimbabwe to come to Tokalia. That's the only time you'll be allowed to buy a visa. Or if you do an extension before or after the trip to Zimbabwe, and then you'll also have to buy a visa when you get to the Vic Falls airport and pay also departure tax to your camp, which is about $16. I don't know if I've answered it. Yeah.
I think you did. Thank you so much.
You're
so
welcome.
let's talk about clothing for a second. Are there certain colors of clothing that we should avoid packing? For instance, one of our guests read that black and white clothing can be a no-no. Can you clarify anything for us there?
Yes, basically when coming to clothes, we don't recommend bright white or red. But you know what, it comes to when we do like that walking safari I mentioned, that's when we're very strict on the clothing, on what to wear, because then the night before, at dinner, after dinner, I do brief the guests on what to wear the next day. Depends on what activity we're doing. So if we're doing a morning walking safari, I always tell them bush color, because you don't want to be putting on a bright red or white out there in the bush while we're walking, like you saw in that picture, because that's the animal's gonna be see you from where. So the reason why we don't recommend that, because we want to walk, watch the animal retreat before the animal notices we're there, because you don't want them to see you, because you don't know how they're gonna react if they see you. But I know how they're gonna react, and it depends on what species it is. But yes, clothing side of things, in short, we don't recommend any bright clothes. But on game drive, it's fine. If you have it, you can wear it. But I mean, also you don't want to be put on white shirts or t-shirts, because sometime like now, until when the next rain is only gonna come in November, it's gonna be very dusty. So your white shirt will, when we come back, it might be black in color because of the dust. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the tents for a second. Now, when we're sleeping in the tents, are they guarded in any way from the proximity of animals?
No. So the only place, because a lot of my guests, which I've guided, who have noticed it, they always ask me when we get to Botswana. So the only time you'll have some guards will be in Tokalia, where we start in Zambia. The reason is because Tokalia is like 10 minutes drive, you're in Livingstone town. So not that we have had issues, but just for safety, we have some security guards, but not for animal side of thing. Just for in case if somebody try and come into camp and do something like stealing. That's why we have the guards who walk around to make sure, because the camp is just outside Livingstone. But we've never had any incidents, but still, we still have them there. But once you cross over to Botswana, like you saw that Cessna 208, you fly out of Kasane, 50 minutes, you land at Linyanti tented camp. You're in the middle of nowhere. Your nearest town or village will be Kasane, which will be 50 minutes flight, or Maun, where we finish, which will be 45 minutes flight. So there's no village nearby. So basically what happened is, to answer your question in short, once it's at dark, myself, your expedition leader, will be walking you to your room. When we come back from the evening activity, if guests want to go back to their tent and freshen up, I'll walk with them, and then we'll arrange on what time for dinner, and then I'll go back and pick everybody to dinner. And then after dinner, I walk them to the room until the next morning, when I come and wake you up. And then also I'll come back 30 minutes later on whatever time we agreed on. If it's still dark, I'll walk with you to the main area and have breakfast, and then we leave for our morning drive. So it's myself, the expedition leader, and the camp manager who will be doing that walk with you back and forth with the flashlight. The reason we do that is because we know the animal behavior better. So if I see an elephant, which I've encountered elephant many times on the walkway or on the path like a Jacana, Gomoti, and Linyanti camp. We don't have a walkway, which you will see at Tokalia, which is our first camp. So we walk on the ground. So I've met lions on the walkway, so I know what to do. I can tell, I can read the animal behavior, I can tell the distance if it's safe for me to walk with my guests, and also normally the animals like lion, they'll run away if they see you on foot anyway. But if you don't know the distance side of thing, and you don't know, and also I can tell if I hear some noise in the bush, I can tell what it is just by listening to the sound. If it's an elephant, there'll be a lot of breaking trees. If it is lion or leopard, the other animal like impala or birds or squirrel, they'll be making some danger call to alert me. Then I can get the alert. So for somebody who doesn't know, you might walk straight into an animal because the other animal are trying to tell you there's something here, but you don't know. And then that's the reason why we walk with you. During the day, 100% you can walk by yourself, but we still tell you to be vigilant. If you see anything which you're not comfortable with, the best way is to walk back where you're coming from. If you're coming from your room, walk back to your room. If you're coming back from the main area, walk back to the main area. If you walk back to your room, if I know we meet at 4 p.m. for tea, if you're not there 10 minutes later, I'll walk and try and find out maybe there's something on the way.
What about bugs and mosquitoes? Should we worry about those or bring repellent?
Bugs and mosquitoes, of course, you are in Africa, you'll be in Africa. We do have those, depend on what time of the year. Right now in winter, a lot of the bugs, they don't like it when it's cold, so they're all hibernating. They'll come out when it's warm, which will be from November onwards. We'll have bugs, yes. Mosquitoes we do have. You don't have to worry about bringing repellent all the way back home because that will increase your weight, your 44 pounds or 61 pounds. We do have mosquito repellent and Doom, which spray for all those, like your spider, for those who are not or terrified with spiders. So each camp will have those. And I also, as an expedition leader, I carry those in every activity in my backpack. So you don't have to worry about. And then on that note, also, as NATAB do brief all the guests, we recommend your doctor will tell you as well your malaria tablets to take just to be on the safe side. And to be honest with you, the camps are very small. All the camps we travel to, they're like 5 rooms. So a very small number. And most of the time it's only us, NATAB group in each camp. So mosquitoes can be worrisome in the area where there's a lot of people, which is Tokalia, because it's right in Livingston, can be one of them. That's why you can be a bit worried because only the female mosquito carry malaria. Only if it bites somebody with malaria, it will transmit it to another one. So that's why I've said in Botswana, because the number of guests or the number of the staff is small, so there's a very less chance of you getting malaria, unless if somebody fly in with malaria already, and then that mosquito transmitted to somebody else after.
Great. Thank you, Alex, for addressing those questions. Unfortunately, that's going to be the last one that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you for any closing comments you may have for us.
Yes. All I can say is that, Botswana, like I've mentioned, is one of the best country in the world when coming to tourism or safari. So all our area or all our camps, none of them is fenced. So you've got about 40% of the entire country, wildlife roam freely. So when you come here, you'll have a true safari experience. That's why, as you know, sometimes some of my guests, they're like, everybody, I always ask my guests when we meet at Tokalia of any expectation or anything specific they want to achieve or see in this safari. And like we always say, even with NATAB, we always say we might see a leopard, we might see a lion, we might see a wild dog. So some of my guests sometimes say, what about if you have put the tracking device some of the animal, or maybe what about if you have a scout, somebody to go and find the animal? For me, that's not the experience we want to offer or sell in Botswana. I and my colleague or Botswana, the country, we want the guests to be part of the experience. That's why when we go out on safari, I can tell when we see the tracks, how fresh they are, and then my guests will become part of the experience. We track that animal together. If we don't see it, we'll try again tomorrow. That's why I've got 9 days, 3 different camps in Botswana, and we have chance of, if we miss that lion at Linyanti tented, we still have chance at Jakana or Gomoti. So the last point is like, I would love to be your expedition leader. You're more than welcome to come to Botswana, either myself, Alex Mazunga, or some of my colleagues I work with would love to share with you Botswana and her beauty. So anytime, you're more than welcome. For those who have been to Botswana, we're more than welcome to have you and guide you again here in Botswana and share with you the beautiful Botswana any day. Thank you.
Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. If you're interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, give us a call at the number on your screen, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.